Hey everyone, you're watching MOI, and it's Reed. Glad to have you here. Actually, very glad to have you here. Please share the video with your friends, leave a comment, subscribe if you don't. About half my views come from people who haven't subscribed. Subscribe. There's all sorts of oddball things I'm going to talk about, give you tips on, introduce you into new things you may not have thought of. You might like it, so hang around. Today, I'm going to talk about electric cars and why they are awesome. So back a while ago, actually 2013, so to speak, well, the end of 2013, I decided to go lease an electric car. Yeah, sounds crazy, right? You know, you can see me out there being a tree hugger, wanting to save the environment, to protect everything. That's not the exact reason why. I've been interested in electric cars for a while. See, they actually have a really good place in preparedness and other things. Plus, I'm a huge fan of rugged individualism and being able to provide and do things for yourself. An electric car seemed perfect. You put a lot of solar panels up, hey, you're literally generating all the fuel you need from the sun. Crazy, wonderful idea. And it occurs to me. And I decided to lease one because when I leased it at the end of 2013, they were offering big deals on getting them out, and the technology was changing. So I didn't want to buy one. I wanted to try it out, see what I thought of it, so I wouldn't be stuck with it. And with technology changing so rapidly, I don't want to sink a huge ton of money into it, especially if I hated the darn thing. And it's a risk. Now, a lot of things in the preparedness community, or trying new things out, learning, exploring, all that, there's a risk. There's a good chance you may do things over again. A good chance you may take several $100 bills and light them on fire and flush them down the toilet. It happens. We're going down roads people haven't paved before, and, well, rough roads tend to use up a lot of cash. It works that way. But in this case, this was an outstanding learning experience, and I find out they're wonderful. Now, the car I leased was a 2013 Ford Focus. I really liked the darn thing because it looked just like a normal car, drove like a normal car in most ways, and it worked really well. I'll throw some pictures up and you can hear me talking as I show along pictures of my car and some stock photos. I, for some reason, could not find photos I took of the engine bay or of the interior. I have no idea where I placed them. I did find photos of the outside, at least of the car I leased, so you can see that one. Now, some of the things I really loved about the electric car, it was quiet. Unbelievably quiet. Even on the highway, going 75, 80 miles an hour, it was really quiet. You did not have to have the radio turned up very far at all. Super clear. People in the car with you, you could talk to each other like you're talking to each other in a living room. It was amazing. There was so little noise that car made. Just great. The air conditioning. Now, about here in the desert where I'm at, it gets hot, really hot. And that was one of the things that I hated so much in the summer sometimes is that cool down the car needs to get going to get air conditioning, so the car isn't scalding hot and you're like sitting there in a sauna or just dripping sweat down yourself. Yeah, it's sort of a problem. But that car, one thing that's nice is it had an electric compressor to get the cooling system going, or the heat in the winter. It was a heat pump design. But when you turned it on and it saw it was hot, it went full speed. You didn't have to be on the highway. You didn't have to have your engine revved up high. Because it was independent of the engine and the motor means, or the way to make energy for itself, it could just draw more power. And boy, that thing could just pump out ice cold air like nothing else. It is a car that's had better air conditioning than any other car I have ever owned. And for living out here in the desert where it is hot, it was outstanding. I loved it for that. You just, had your windows cracked, or maybe not cracked because the wind's blowing, but get in, turn it on, and ice cold air within about 30 seconds. It was great. I used to have an old Honda way back in the day, and that thing was horrible. Horrible about air conditioning. The best thing I have for air conditioning since then, is a F-150 pickup. But now I generally bought this car for in-town driving. Lee would take it and stuff like that, and we'd trade out and stuff. We carpool pretty much everywhere, do things together, and it worked great for in-town. It was outstanding. The actual total range this car had was 81 miles, with a huge, giant asterisk on that. Electric cars have some changes in how they function due to weather conditions, particularly if it gets cold. When it's really cold, and crazy enough out here in the desert, it gets, below zero actually. It can do that in the dead of winter. Usually just a little bit below zero, but not much. But we do end up in the teens all the time. And when you get down to those lower points in the temperature, the heat pump design that it has, and most heat pumps, even ones for your houses is like that, do a really bad job of making heat. So when it gets down to those low points, to make heat, it would engage resistive heating. Those things you'd buy at the store to heat up a room or something like that, they're resistive heaters. And they use a lot of energy. So in the winter, in the morning, get in cold and all that, get the heat going, gets warming up, make you feel better because, just driving the thing doesn't make heat like a normal car. And you'd see the range suddenly go, I can go 42 miles. Whoa, that's a drop. Of course, by lunchtime, it's going, hey, that 42 miles, I was only kidding. Now that it's warmed up, I can go 60. It was always interesting. And it took a little while to get used to, this range of how things are based on weather conditions. The other thing is speed. Air resistance was a major, major factor in range. Now, on this particular car, on the Ford and stuff, highway speed, 75 miles an hour, it cut it about 25%. So you're not really going to drive 80 miles on the highway on a full charge. It's not going to happen. Now 55, actually, it was like dead on. 55 was sort of like the right on point of where air resistance, speed, and efficiency right about the sweet spot so that projected range equaled actual how far you could go. Worked out really well. Now, actually, we drove it, since we're in small town America, just in town all the time, and to little other towns or other towns nearby us, and we didn't have any trouble getting around. Actually, no trouble at all. And we never really worried much about the range. You kind of got used to it and just, don't worry too much. And we actually put in a 200-volt charger. So when we get home, we'd plug the thing in, go get up the next day, it's all ready to go. And it was really neat. I liked it a lot. Now, there were obviously downsides. The range is a downside. And as the vehicle ages, it's going to lose range capacity based on the battery. The batteries, as they start to wear out, they get inefficient at holding charge. So you start going to see a drop off on that. And so if you kept one of these cars for a long time, you're definitely going to look at swapping out a battery system. The battery systems are very expensive. Very, very expensive. Like some of those ones that have a much bigger battery bank, they're like, I think 75 kilowatt hours like that. You're talking about dumping, $12 to $20-something thousand in the projected cost of the manufacturing going down at a later date for these cars. That's a pretty hefty investment to swap things out. Now, given the way these work, though, a battery swap would return it to normal functionality. There's not a lot of components that are going to wear the same way. And that's a plus on this that I really liked. See, the only thing I had to do to this car the whole time I had it was add air to the tires. That was it. I had it for 3 years, and all I had to do was add air to the tires. That was nice. No oil changes, no coolant changes, all sorts of stuff. Now, if I actually owned it for like 7 years, I'd actually have to swap the coolant out that it uses to keep the battery pack managed. But that's about it. They don't wear the same way. The motors, they don't need to have special service done on them or anything like that. I mean, you're going to wear brakes out. You'll have, some wheel bearings that'll wear out eventually and stuff like that. But nothing on the scale of a regular car. It was neat not having to do oil changes. Now, one of the other downsides I do worry about them is collisions. Lithium batteries are reactive. Very reactive, to say the least. You puncture those cells, there's a really good chance they're going to short, and when they do, you got a fire on your hands. And we're not talking a little fire, we're talking a lithium metal fire. That does not get put out easily. In fact, very special fire extinguishers are needed to put out a lithium fire. They're dangerous, very dangerous. And that is something I do have a major concern with on these electric cars, is their ability to handle collisions. I think they're going to have to advance something on the battery technology so that when there's a puncture or something that actually damages the protective outer armor around the battery cells, that it somehow like self-extinguishes, something to get in there to put that lithium fire out or to stop it from igniting. They're going to need to do something on that. So the cars that have lithium cells that are all gauged in the base board of the car, which just runs on the bottom, I do worry about, and especially these ones that have really big battery packs. Now the one I had was actually stuffed under the back seat and took up part of the trunk. So I lost some cargo space. Ford kind of shimmed it in there. In fact, it was a 2013 Ford Focus in every viewable way. I mean, it looked identical from the outside, except if you saw that little electric badge on it, you wouldn't have noticed that it was an electric car. And the other thing is, I figured if I was hit, collision or something like that, if the fire starts, it's at least not under my feet. I pity the back passengers if they're in there, so I'd only put the friends I didn't like in the back. But I figured, for those of in the front, we could get out probably fairly quickly. The ones that run across the entire floorboard, I am concerned with. I mean, it's a good design decision because it sort of minimizes what space is used up in the car, but it worries me. Now, an electric truck where the actual battery pack was contained in the bed of the pickup truck, I like that idea because you could actually engage a firewall to protect the cab and protect the people. I like that idea a lot. So I'm really interested to see a possible electric truck. I know they aren't going to recharge as fast as other things. And that's the other downside of an electric car right now, is that, charging these things up takes time. For me to charge this car up with the charger I had purchased, it took a maximum of 6 hours if I had drained the entire battery in the day. If I drained it completely flat, it would take 6 hours, maybe a little bit more, but right around 6. That's a significant time. If you're trying to do a road trip at 80-something miles a pop, well, actually probably only be going about 70 miles a pop based on how things work out, and the fastest charger available can recharge it in 4 hours, yeah, getting up to another state's going to take a while. That's a downside. Now, yes, they've got these new supercharger abilities and all these other things they're working on where they're putting massive current into the batteries really fast and to recharge them quickly. You could do a road trip. However, there's a catch. There's always a catch. When you recharge batteries like this very, very quickly, you actually shorten the lifetime of the batteries. It's very hard on them. It takes a lot out of them. And it's not really that good. And the thermal battery management pack has to really work to keep those batteries cool while they're getting this much current in. The other thing, if you think about that is a serious amount of current going through those wires to push it in, and high voltage. If there's anything wrong, well, I expect a massive fireball to develop quickly. So I am concerned about that. Now, one thing that I was particularly interested in these for, and why I'm still very interested in the electric cars, is like I said, with solar panels, you're making your own fuel. You have a big enough array like I do. I just don't have enough battery to charge them at night, so it'd be a day charge. But if something happened, I can charge one up myself without any trouble. I don't need anyone's help. I can do it. I have all the electrical power I need to do that. And that's a wonderful thing to think about. Say there was some calamity and major development in the Middle East happens and they quit exporting oil and there's a major oil shortage. Well, it could really impact us. And that's something that concerns me. I think it's very possible we could see some sort of calamity develop like that and there is a major oil shortage. Being able to literally make my own fuel from the sun means it is a problem I don't have to worry about. I like having multiple fuel sources. I like to be able to heat my house in a couple ways. So the idea of having, a gas-powered car and an electric car, hey, works great. Gas-powered car, my truck can get me anywhere I need to go, and, great for road trips. Electric car, in town, everything else. Now, I haven't replaced it yet, obviously. I haven't had it for about 2 years at this point. I was waiting on technology changes. And boy, do we got some good options coming. There's a lot of great options coming out in the electric car market. And we've got some SUVs, and it looks like in a couple years we'll have some trucks. So I'm saving money, and I plan to replace it with another electric vehicle and use it again. And this is going to be one I plan to keep for many, many years. Most people who know me know I drive my vehicles till their wheels fall off. And yes, that's actually literal. I've had wheels fall off and then I decided, yeah, I'm not fixing that car. I'll have to tell you some stories about that another time. But I like to drive things till the absolute end of life I can get out of them. Much to Lee giving me holy heck about it. But try to be careful with money that I have because I don't have a lot of it. But anyways, I thought I'd share my experience. Get you thinking about an electric vehicle. As the prices are coming down here and options are developing, it's something to look at, particularly when paired with solar panels and you're making your own fuel. Really good option. And then we don't have all these maintenance issues. All you got to do is charge it up, put air in the thing, check the coolant level, add washer fluid. I had to add windshield washer fluid. That's it. It's amazing. You don't have to worry about oil leaking everywhere, all these other things. Really impressive. So if you've been scoffing at the idea of an electric car and thinking, why on earth would I want this? Think again. There's some really good options for being ruggedly independent, generating your own fuel that you may not have realized. It's very hard to make your own gasoline if you haven't noticed. I hope this offers some good advice, some opinions, and something to think about, everyone. Take care. Enjoy your day. This is Reed, out for now.